Hello everyone, this is Ivan from Allora the Pasta Lab. Today I'm gonna show you the process of making fresh pasta from scratch by using flour and eggs. I'm gonna show you how to work with these two ingredients in order to obtain a good pasta dough, how to stretch it in two different ways, one manually with a rolling pin and a wooden board, and the other one by using a pasta machine that a lot of us have at home nowadays. Ultimately I'm gonna show you how to make two classics, pappardelle and tagliatelle. So let's get into it. The first thing we're gonna do is the sifting of the flour. We're gonna break all the lumps that we might have in the flour. And one thing that I do usually, save some of the flour on the side. This is because we might need it later on, depending on how the dough turns out. We break all the lumps. We're gonna create a fontana. I actually use this nice glass thing to do it. Or you can simply do it with your fingers as well. Create a little hole in the middle of the fontana, in which we're going to crack our eggs now. At this point, we don't need anything else. We just use a fork and we start to mix the egg in the middle. Then, what we can do slowly is to start incorporating the flours from the sides. This might require some practice, and at the beginning, don't worry if your egg will fall off. Something that happens all the time. It still happens to me every now and then. So the more we go, the more we enlarge the hole of the fontana, and the more we can see that the egg becomes less runny. You can see how this has enlarged right now, and you can see that the egg is not as runny anymore, right? So at this point, what we can do by using a spatula or tarocco, we're gonna start incorporating all the flour into the dough. Usually what I do, I start from the sides and put the flour in the middle. And also use the spatula to help incorporating the flour. Once we have something like this, it's time to use our hands. So we can clean the spatula and use our hands to incorporate all the rest. What I like to do is to start from the top, bend it halfway and push. Away and push. And then turn it 90 degrees and do the same. At this point, we can see that this is becoming a bit gluey. It's becoming a bit wet. So the flour that we saved at the beginning, we're gonna use it a little bit at a time. Ultimately, we want to have a silky, nice dough that doesn't stick so much to your hands, but that is not stiff either. The tarocco can help us also to clean the wooden board, the spianatoia. And all this needs to be incorporated in our dough. We don't want to have anything on the spianatoia at the end. This operation might require maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I think it's actually such a nice, mindful experience to do this. Just think about all the stressful moments in your daily work, in your daily life, and try to release that into the dough. So as you can see, our spianatoia is almost clean. So now the dough looks good. So what we can do is to start working it around like this. By pressing down, let's start to do like this. Let's start to roll it. It's not sticky, it's not wet, it's not stiff. It's actually very elastic. And now what we want to do, we need to leave it rest. And we need to leave it rest at least for half an hour. So we just put it in the clean foil. Just cover it, close it on one side, close on the other side, and let it rest for about half an hour. Okay, it's time to start working with it. And for this tutorial, I'm gonna actually show you two techniques. One is how we can now stretch the pasta, create a sfoglia with a mattarello by hand. And the other one will be with a pasta machine, because I know that a lot of us actually own a pasta machine nowadays. So we're gonna see two different techniques. And we're gonna start by cutting our dough. One thing you will notice is all the bubbles. This means that we have worked our dough quite well, because we have incorporated enough air into the dough while we were kneading it. So we take half of it right now. We're gonna put the rest again in the clean foil. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna take still the flour that we saved before. We're gonna take some of it. We're gonna put it on our spianatoia. We're gonna take the dough and we're gonna start working with our hands in order to make a round, flat piece. It looks like a pizza dough a little bit. Put some flour, and then we can start with the mattarello. We're gonna start from the middle to work, and we're gonna start to work in both ways, towards the top and towards the bottom. Once we see that this becomes long, we're gonna turn it 90 degrees and do the same. Let's try to make it round and nice. I can tell you the beginning will take some time if you decide to do it with the mattarello. And once in a while we can actually turn it, clean it from the excessive flour, and continue. Okay, now we put some of the flour on top, making sure that it's not sticky. Some flour. We go with the mattarello from the top. We roll the dough on itself. We're going to start massaging the dough. Without putting excessive pressure here, we're gonna start massaging the dough towards the edges. Once we do that, then we can unroll the dough. Try to clear the wrinkles that are created and continue working. Okay, so here we have a nice volley. You can see here the veins are actually coming out. And now it's time to let it rest for a couple of minutes. Not so much, because otherwise it will become very dry. So this foglia here, as you can see, is already the base for many shapes of pasta and many types of pasta. If you think about it, you can have like squares and have lasagne sheet, for example. Or, as I'm gonna show you soon, you can make pappardelle, tagliatelle. So we're gonna start by not putting a little bit of flour, not so much. I'm gonna start from the top and we're gonna roll it. And now, with a knife, we cut out the edges. And we're gonna start to cut approximately half centimeter, like this. And by doing this, you can see that we have already tagliatelle. To make pappardelle, what we're gonna do, we're just gonna cut it a little bit thicker. And voila, nice pappardelle. So this is actually the technique on how to do it with the mattarello, right? So we saw that this is probably the lengthiest one, because we need to stretch the pasta with the mattarello and then cut the pasta with a knife. Now we're gonna see how to do it with a pasta machine. Okay, so now we're gonna see how to stretch the pasta and create some tagliatelle with a pasta machine. This one is a Titania by Imperia, very well-known brand in Italy, and is a manual one. There is a handle here on the side that I have to twist to turn manually. So we're gonna start from the highest measure, which is basically the thickness between the two rollers here. As we did before, we're gonna start putting some flour on our spianatoia. we're gonna take the second half that we left behind before, and we're gonna do the same as before. So we're gonna start with our hands a little bit, like this. Gonna put some flour on top, and then we're gonna still use a little mozzarella just to flatten it a little bit more. Now what we're gonna do is gonna start, okay, from the thickest measure between the two rollers. We're gonna start doing the first. Once it's done like this, what we need to do is to put it in the middle here, fold it in the middle there, use the roller just to give a quick flatten, and then do it again. This is basically, it's called layering, right? So we are layering our pasta right now. And we do this maybe a couple of times. And we also put some flour here and there. We're gonna put our pasta again. We might do this maybe 2 times per each measurement. So once more. This way. You see how nice this is becoming. I'm gonna go for the thinnest. One thing that we can do here, as it is becoming a bit impractical to work with such a long one, what I usually do, I cut it in half. So that, you know, like it could be easier also for you to work it. So we keep this one on the side, and then we go for the last measure with this one first. And here we go. Look how nice. Voila. So we have 2 very nice sfoglie now here. Okay, so now we're gonna see how to cut it. What I recommend to do is actually to leave this foglia dry for a little bit, maybe for a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, so that it will be much easier then to cut it, because it's going to be a bit dry. And then, as you can see, I mean, this pasta machine here, the Titania, has 2 different cutters. This one for tagliatelle and this one for tagliolini. What we're gonna do, very simply, insert our pasta in the cutter. Let it be, and then from the bottom here we can start collecting our beautiful tagliatelle. And voila, look how beautiful these are. Here we go. Beautiful tagliatelle. You can do in a nest like this. There you go. And this is ready to cook.